So I can see you now, feeling proud, walking around, telling everyone, hey, I got human rights. And then you go to a friend's party, go up to everyone at the party and be like, hey, I got human rights. Eventually, you keep doing this, someone's going to tell you to shut up. Now, if they did, is that a violation of your freedom of expression? Well, thankfully the answer is no. It's entirely okay to tell someone to shut up in someone's home. Doesn't that seem like a violation of freedom of expression? I mean, you're not able to express yourself, they're stopping you. That's pretty clear cut, right? Well, no. And the reason is because human rights law only applies to the government, not to every individual person. That means that someone can make up their own rules for their own house, and if you are a guest in their house, you're typically going to have to follow it. Those rules are going to have to follow local laws, but otherwise, your human rights don't come into play. Now let's think of another situation where they would come into play. If your human rights only apply to the government, well, what about your local library? Now, you might not think of your local library as part of the government, but if it's a public library, then it is. It's being created as part of the government. So your human rights would apply to them. Now, does that mean a librarian can't tell you to shut up? Again, the answer is no. And this goes back to the last video talking about how human rights are not absolute. Reasonable restrictions on speech, as long as they're applied equally, can be totally okay. Think of what the purpose of a library is. It would be really hard to be able to sit and read and concentrate if you had to deal with people talking on their phones loudly, people having a conversation, even people just eating loudly can be a distraction for a lot of people. That would suck. You wouldn't be able to use the library for its stated purpose. So even speech in a public space can be regulated to some degree, generally a very slight degree. But think of a public park or a public square. That's viewed as like the most public place possible, the most open and available to public speech. You can say and you can do almost anything you want. But even in that situation, if there's a concert there that's blasting loud music until 3 in the morning, the local residents will be able to tell that concert to shut up. Otherwise, it would really suck to live there. This goes back to how human rights are not absolute and can be limited, especially when they're abutting other people's human rights. Now, one big exception to the rule I've been saying that human rights only applies to government is for international business. As of right now, there are no human rights obligations on business, but that's something that activists, including me, have been trying to change for many, many years. The idea is that you have businesses that go into countries where the governments are unable or unwilling to protect the people that are living there. This could be because there are very corrupt governments accepting bribes, or it could be that they're undeveloped countries, that their domestic legal systems are just incredibly weak and don't provide an avenue of justice for the people living there. And so if that domestic system is not there, then the idea is to create an international system that can hold all businesses to account for the human rights violations anywhere in the world. This is great, not only because it'll bring more justice to the world, which obviously I think is a great thing, but it actually can be pro-business. It helps level the playing field. If all businesses are held to these obligations, then a specific business that would normally be more nefarious and go into some country and exploit the rights because it'll save them some money won't be able to do that anymore. Now that one business won't have a competitive advantage over other businesses that are operating ethically. That's it. If you like this video, please click subscribe and then you'll get even more inside human rights.